this, as you know, this is more about understanding Saviynt, learning Saviynt, how it looks like, or uh, how the platform behaves and stuff like that, right? So that's what we will be kind of looking into, what the product is, what it does, all right, and features of it, how to use them, configurations, etc., and all right. So that's the primary focus. Okay. I'll not draw comparisons of Saviynt with other products and all, which mostly everybody will do, but I'll not do that because Saviynt has got its own goods and bads, and other products as well have got its own good and bad. Okay, so I cannot compare
Correct.
Saviynt with the SAP
No,
GRC. Okay.
you no need to tell that. I know it's a very crap tool, and like all people just like like push their head on the wall. I know that, so that's it. You no need to compare. You just let me know what it has inside. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it is. So as I said, right, comparison is not
Yeah,
a good point
good
because
point. Yeah.
it has got its own good features. It doesn't have some features which other products have. Okay, so something
Correct.
like that. Yeah. So on the whole, it's a SaaS product, right? As we all know, it's a SaaS application. Less customization and more configuration oriented. It's sort of a plug and play platform wherein you just need to know what that feature stands for, and then kind of you enable or disable that feature to get your work going. Okay, so it's as simple as that, and it should be easy for people who have already had some background on any of the identity management products, right? So that's very high level overview. Okay, so it has got its code written in Java. Okay, they use Groovy on Grace, if I'm not wrong. I'm not a developer guy. Okay, but they use Java in the background, and they have the MySQL as a backend database product. Okay, and then this runs on a container called Tomcat. Okay, so. Saviynt claims that the product can be executed on different containers, WebLogic, WebSphere, or even Tomcat, but majority of the deployments happen on Tomcat. Okay, and Saviynt also claims that the database support is extended towards SQL Server or MariaDB or MongoDB and all, but majority of the deployments happen again on
MySQL
MySQL.
only.
Yeah. Say, for example, Shell, right? I mean, you have been into Shell. So Shell, again, Shell is also into MySQL, but Shell had implementations of SQL Server and all. So that's one example. Okay, I had a customer previously wherein we deployed it on MariaDB. Okay, so it's very rare, rarest of rare, but majority of the deployments happen across the what it is MySQL database as a backend. Okay, so that's with it. And as I said, it's a SaaS product, so very less customization. It allows customizations, okay, but that is with respect to adding your functionality in form of a jar file or something like that. Okay, we'll check that a bit later. All right, but yeah, but it's more sort of a plug and play. Should be very easy to use until unless you know the functionality properly. Okay.
Correct.
On the whole, there are like five modules which are very predominantly used across the application. Okay, I will not be talking about role mining in this particular syllabus, Atanu. Okay, I would not touch that completely. Okay, um, because it's again one of the rare module which any implementation would like to use. Okay,
Correct.
so any customer would like to use. Sorry. So what we'll be covering is ARS, okay, SOD, analytics, certification, and some parts of admin because configurations are involved. Okay.
Correct. And
Cool.
also, so
I
you will
love
do. and she also will do that thing, right? I was asking on that day, like that the mapping stuff, like initially, like what you are talking about, like once you get the product. So like I have one question. So like the Tomcat and the MySQL. So like whenever somebody is just trying to install Saviynt, right? So as you have said, like it is SaaS, means software as service. So, but just to enable that in like uh, because it's not on-prem in that case anyway, right? So like during the installation of that, so like in the server in some client space, so somebody has to install like this the Tomcat or the
So
MySQL
yeah,
separately,
yeah.
or it is come as a bundle.
I got your question, Atanu. I'm sorry to kind of cut you there. So
Hmm.
everything will be taken care by the infra team of Saviynt, Atanu. We did not to burn our kind of sweat or sit down and worry about it. Okay, because
Okay.
everything will be taken care by the infra team of Saviynt. So what usually happens at the start of an implementation,
Hmm.
your team, say your organization, because you're more into partner implementation, right? So your organization or you will bring in a person from your customer, okay, and
Hmm.
bring in a person from Savient's infra support team, okay. So you guys
Hmm.
will sit in a call. You guys will sit in a call, and they will be precisely the network guys from both the fronts, okay, from your
Hmm.
side and Savient side, from the customer side and Savient side. So they can properly talk those terminologies and understand what is required and what is not, okay. But
Hmm.
majority of the work during any implementation, the infra setup and everything will be taken care by the infra team of Savient. So there's a dedicated DevSecOps team which will do the entire work for us, okay.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, meaning whether it has to be a direct connect or a VPC connect, or where it has to be hosted, whether it has to be hosted in a Savient's cloud instance, or whether it is a customer's cloud instance, etc., and all will be taken care by them, because it
Hmm.
involves cost, and it's more sort of a network related work, right? So,
Correct.
uh, uh,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, yeah. So because these two folks should be able to figure it out. All right, but
Okay.
primarily, yeah, but primarily when you're done with your initial discussion of infra setup and all, so you will have a direct URL, okay, something like this, wherein uh, mm, wherein you can just log in and start doing your work and all that stuff. Okay, if this instance is down, for example, if this instance is down, you're not able to access this URL and all, so you knock the door of Savient. They should be fixing it and giving you back a up and running application. All right,
Okay.
cool. All right. So that's with the infra thing and all. So you'll directly get access to the application wherein you can start working and putting your stuff. All right. So that's with that. Now, yeah. Now you have access to your application, right? So meaning you've got you're able to log into that through an admin user ID password, and you will not be seeing any of this. So okay, initially, like when you'll be given a raw application, you will not see anything like this on the screen. Everything will be blank. Okay, you will have access to all the tabs from the top. Okay, and all the basic configurations will be enabled for you. Okay, and you will have a request map and all that setup already done, because the initial setup will be the initial setup of the configurations, the small file configurations. And as you asked earlier, right, how do I link a database with the application? How do I frame this URL and all that stuff? That would be taken care of whenever the application is being rolled out or being uh, exploded for the first time. It's a WAR file, right? So you must be knowing it. So that WAR file explodes whenever you run your container, okay, the Tom container, all right? And
Hmm.
for the first time, when the tables and the database gets created, all this configurations, the small configurations which are required, they will also be enabled as part of the WAR file explosion, okay, or when the WAR file explodes for the first time. right? So that's what I was trying to say. So don't worry about what happens or how the application comes up or what is the linking, etc. and all. The only thing is that they will give you a straightforward URL, okay? Because you are from the partner support team, right? So you will directly get a URL. I'm not sure if you have access to logs and database as well. Do you have it?
No, we have access in the log from the UI, but we don't have the access in database. No one has access in database.
Yeah. So that's another restriction point, right? So I believe Saviynt is slowly cutting down the access to the internal team members as well, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So that's what is happening, and logs, as you say, as you know, you can access it from UI, or you can request for a partner access as well, wherein they'll give you a Unix machine wherein you can check the logs. Okay. So that's what the limitation which we will be having from the other side. Okay, cool.
Mhm. But
So
I have one question, like in case the log thing what you are talking about, because in the production usually like they have the all load in the production system, right? Like they have, every project has the multiple things are going on into the production. So every time like just to maintain all the controls of the multiple jobs run like in very small interval, right? So like in case like something is breaking, so then, is it very hard to just capture log from the production, or like how people will just find out like what is breaking? Like let's say somebody is just trying to provision something or changing some attributes, like, and it's going to the task, and maybe it is giving some error in the task. So now, if people don't understand like what it is, and they try to find out the log, so is it something like there is some trick to find out, or it is very hard, or like what needs to be done for that?
okay, so I'll answer your question in two parts, right? One, if you are within the within Saviynt organization, which we are not, for example, okay, so we are from the other side of the table, right? So you're either a partner or you're a client, right? So in that case, see, to my knowledge, Saviynt has this plan or a license, or I don't know, but it's a part of a partner support that they give access to the logs to the partners as well. Okay, I know this somehow, but that you need to check with any of your Saviynt's partner, right? The client partner, whoever is assigned to your project, okay, in US or anywhere. So I know that they give access to the logs, but that's only a read-only access. Okay, it's not a complete access. Okay, then once you get access to the logs, you can use your Unix commands to tail through the logs and get that information. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, from the UI, I feel it is slightly difficult to read the logs, okay, because it's not so user friendly compared in the UI. Okay. Third thing, if there is any error, mostly the tasks provisioning comments will have the error message in it, but it's not. It's a very high level error message. It's not a complete message as well. Meaning it's not a complete
Correct,
explanation as well. Okay.
correct,
So
correct. Mhm.
to answer your question, so that would be your starting point, wherein you pick the error message from the provisioning commits, okay, and then do that search using that string. You do that search in your logs if you have access to the logs, okay. So I would kind of term it like that and then proceed it. There's no clear cut tips or tricks to find out why that error has exactly occurred or where it has occurred, etc. and all. It's just that you need to tail your logs properly. Tail in the sense, or
So,
you need to dig your logs properly. That's all.
so like, can I search this one through UI too? Like the provisioning comment, if I just copy, but it's basically like it gives the date wise, right? But it has the timestamp. So let's say like if I choose some timestamp and try to find the debug log. So, but is there any way like I can find that the provisioning comment string?
Yeah, yeah. See, w- basically, what you will do, you will do a search. You will use a search command in Unix and then use any string to find it out.
Okay,
Correct.
so
See, that's a good.
I should have access on Unix in that case.
Yes, because see, at that particular timestamp, there could be a number of commands which could have got executed, or something would have happened in the background, right? Wherein which would have created a lot of logs. So
Got it. Yeah.
it's yeah. So just check with your client partner whether they give
Mhm.
access to the logs or not, read-only access to the logs or not. Okay. Don't quote
Okay.
me anywhere, but that's what.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but that's what.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, because that's what I remember. They give access to the logs as well. Okay, read-only logs. So that would make your life easy, at least in terms of production, right? So I know what you do. Basically, you just come here in the admin function and then say dig the logs for the last 100, 200 lines, correct?
Correct.
So
Yep.
yeah. And unfortunately, I do not have the logs here under the
Mhm.
admin functions. If I click on admin function, I do not have the logs inside here. So usually it is under this admin function,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe the war file which is running here is not updated or whatever. I don't know. It is not updated. That's why like this thing is not coming. Okay. Or I may have to change my request map or something like that. So you dig your logs from here. Okay. So that's what you do. Or else you request for a Unix access to the logs wherein you can get a read-only access from the company. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
But that's the only way I believe, Atanu, that you just find it out from the Unix search command. I don't think there is a direct
Direct
tip
one.
or trick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's fine.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that you check the time frame when your task got created or when you have run your provisioning job. Okay, so there will
Correct.
be a time frame. Yeah, there will be a time frame for you to run your provisioning job, right? So
Mhm.
just compare those time frames and dig the data between those two time frames from the time when your task got created or from the time when you have run your provisioning job. That should be the starting point for you.
Yeah, sure. And also, like, since like you talk about the job, because as I said in the last day also, I need to understand like this relationship, like the connections, the JSON input inside the connection, the corresponding job, and the rules, and like how it is replicated, like for the provisioning or for any sort of thing, like the hire, rehire, like whatever the general process, whatever it has, I need to learn like in very deeper way in this thing. Like sometimes the people do the recon, right, just to reconcile the data, or like those things, like I want to focus more to know. Because I have seen in the few projects here, so this is the part basically common for everyone. Then like if you are using your what it's called the campaign, if you are not using the campaign, right? So if you are replicating some of the scenarios by making different queries and the workflows, but like these are the part, it's like common for all. So like I really need to understand very proper way from those things.
Yeah, so we'll see how much we can cover through the syllabus. Whatever is kind of pending, we'll check like what's the best way to handle it and all. Okay, so through syllabus, like we'll check what is because that's a primary thing. We'll cover what is there in here.
Yeah.
Okay,
What is the syllabus?
and
Yes, Sri, like even I'll just talk to them, like even inside other than this syllabus, what they are given, because since like this is the professional kind of course, right? So like people work through this. So like if there is something like if like in that case, like if you need to extend something, then I'll just talk to them, because I just only don't want to do like the similar kind of thing like what Saviynt does in their training, because I know that's not the scenario what people work in the project.
mm, yeah. Okay, let's talk through that. Okay, we are just in a starting point, right? So
Yeah.
once we reach to those topics, then we can elaborate them and kind of discuss it further and all. All right.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Cool, cool. All right. So, where was I? Yeah, yeah. So we were
Oh,
just doing that overview. We were just doing that overview part wherein we just discussed as it to be a SaaS model, and then we understood how logging can be sorted out in a very high level, right? Meaning not clear cut, but in a very high level that how logging can be looked into and all that stuff, right? All the Saviynt provides something called as logger configurations and all under global configurations, but I don't think that's needed to anybody. But what is more important is that how do you dig the logs, okay, and how do
Mhm.
you find out a particular error from the logs, and also that would be more convenient way of doing it, right? So
Correct.
yeah, yeah. So this basically is probably like I would just keep it simple that this is what the product is, and these are the modules which the product supports, okay, or has. Unlike other products wherein there will be two products for different usage, etc. and all. Okay, so that's on the high level, right? So before
Mhm.
before we get into other things, right? Any
Correct.
questions still before
No,
proceeding?
no, 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 no. As of now, it's clear.
Okay, cool. Now, let's get our hands little dirty, right? Meaning try to understand the modules present in depth. Okay. We'll
Mhm.
basically start with the identity repository thing. Okay, meaning
Mhm.
the
Yep.
some parts of the admin module. Okay.
Yep.
We'll
Yep.
discuss. We'll discuss the data model, how it is set up within Saviynt, and
Mhm.
application import process. Okay, what are the
Yep.
different methods of application import, different methods
Mhm.
of role import, okay,
Mhm.
uh,
Yep.
different ro- different types of the roles which are present and some examples of that, manual creation,
Mhm.
etc. and all, and then we'll
Yep.
check some use cases as well.
Sure. Sure.
Okay,
Sure. Okay, sweet.
now, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So first and foremost, right, say I don't call it. I'll mix introduction and data model in one thing itself, right? So in any IAM product, right, in any IAM product, what are the most important things which you require to perform any activity are users, okay? You need accounts, okay? You need accesses, okay? And say if they have some privileges, okay? So even calls it as privileges, all right? So first and foremost, you need to have users in your system, okay? Either you create a user from Saviynt or you reconcile a user from Target, okay? Because right now we are building the core components of the platform, or we are building that platform, and on top of it, okay, we do our rest of activities of ARS or SOD or certification or attestation. Okay, if I do not have these things as my base platform, there's no point of using the other functionalities of the product, right? So first and foremost, I'm building my repository here. Okay, what does my repository include? It includes users, accounts, accesses, the respective accesses or entitlements belonging to those accounts, or in general what the application will have, okay, and their mapping, right? Meaning it's not just that I bring a user and I bring an account and I do not map them, or I do not map an account to an entitlement, etc., and all that stuff, right? So what we do here primarily is the entire reconciliation processes, whether it is from a user reconciliation or a access reconciliation from an application, right? So that's what we'll be seeing here, right? What are the jobs which are involved, or how the import process is supported, etc. and all. Okay. So, as I said, the first and foremost thing, or the primary thing for you, is that you need to have the users' accounts and their accesses getting imported on the first go, okay, and then perform your ARS on top of it, okay. So these are my core components, okay, within any IAM product, that you need to have them initially, okay. You cannot say that I'll kickstart my ARS process and then I'll do my user import or data import or afterwards, right? So that doesn't bring a proper shape to your implementation, or it's not logically correct as well, correct? So what we'll try to understand here is that how we build our base platform, the core platform, okay, wherein we reconcile the important things and then get into the aspects of ARS and other stuff. Okay,
Sure.
cool. So coming if, a step ahead, or going into another or kind of taking the next step, right? So
Mhm.
okay, now I have decided that I'll bring in these things. I'll bring in users, I'll bring in access, accounts and their privileges, etc. and all. Okay. How these things are set up within Saviynt, or how these things are aligned in Saviynt, or how what is the hierarchy between these things, right? So we'll check that point, okay, and
Sure.
see how Saviynt um, has these elements configured. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, right? For any implementation, okay, you need users, right? So users, they come through your user import process, okay, which we'll discuss in a bit later. All right. So first and foremost, you need to do your user reconciliation, whether you do a full-time reconciliation every day or whether you do an incremental, that is your wish. Okay. For example, I have say for example what Workday or success factors, both are different types of connectors. So if I have success factors, okay, and that's my source of information, or database is my source of information, and I bring users from there. All right. So for the first time, I do a full reconciliation and bring the users, and from the second time, I want to do a subsequent incremental reconciliation and bring the users. Okay. So I have my users brought in from my user import process, the first and foremost thing. Okay. Then afterwards, right, I need to bring something called as accounts. Okay. After bringing accounts, I will bring something called as entitlements. Okay. Entitlements can have entitlements, child entitlements. Okay, let me write it like, okay. Entitlements may have child entitlements and then can further have privileges. Okay. This is one kind of a data model. Okay. Wherein there is an association of users to account. Okay. There is an association of between accounts to entitlements. Okay. And there could be further association of entitlements to child entitlements or even privileges. Okay. So this is how it would always look like. Okay. So if you open any user, right? If you go to any user and open, open that particular user's page, you will have something called as an accounts tab. Okay. So under accounts, you will definitely have entitlements. Okay. If that account has got access. Okay. And if your entitlement further has got child entitlement, they'll be mapped there. Okay. If you have privileges, again, they'll be shown under the entitlements, account entitlements page. Okay. So what you need to remember is that this would be the hierarchy, or this will be the hierarchy in Saviynt. If you have a user account, okay, mapped to that particular user, and there are entitlements to the account, and that entitlements may or may not have child or privileges, child entitlements or privileges. Okay. There may be a question that can my accounts exist independently without being mapped to users? Yes. Okay. uh, for example, right, there could be orphan accounts. Okay. There could be service accounts. Okay. There could be highly privileged accounts, right? So there are general user accounts, right? On the other side, there are user accounts, correct? So something called as user accounts. Okay. On contrary, we have some other accounts as well which are supported within Saviynt, called as orphan accounts or service accounts or highly privileged accounts. Correct. User accounts, again, user accounts, it's not mandatory that every user account will be tagged to the respective user or not. Okay. It all depends upon the user to account correlation rule which you write at an endpoint level. Okay. So how a user to account correlation rule happens? Okay. This is a rule which you write it at the endpoint level. Okay. Why we are writing it in an endpoint level? Because an account is always specific to an endpoint. An account cannot exist without an endpoint. Correct. So you always write your account, the user to account correlation rule at your endpoint level. Okay, so this is the primary or the main thing which joins or which correlates your user to account. Okay, consider if I do not have this user account rule. Okay, if I do not have a user account rule, my accounts will still be imported, but they will not be tagged to any of the users. In that case, it becomes a orphan account. Okay, there may be cases wherein like you understand the definition of a service account, right? So service accounts as well, they exist independently. They may have a owner, but service accounts will not be mapped to a particular user. They cannot be mapped, okay, because that's a property of service account, or that's the nature of the service account, correct? Orphan accounts, as we just understood, if there is no user getting correlated with that particular account, then that particular account will act as a orphan account. Okay, so you may have a requirement going in the future saying that the customer will say that, okay, give me all the user accounts, give me all the accounts which are orphan belonging to Active Directory, for example. Okay, then what you will do, you will write a query in analytics, okay, wherein you bring your query should filter all the accounts belonging to Active Directory and show them in a particular format on the upon the execution. Okay, so that becomes an orphan account. Okay, we have service accounts as well, right? Service accounts are never associated with the user because that's the nature of. Okay, they may have an owner, but service accounts will not be tagged to a user. Okay, when you open an account, right? When you open an account, that account will have different types associated with that. Okay, meaning, say this is my account, for example, right? Say I have testing one. Although it's grayed out, where's the account type? Yeah. So the account type will hold what kind of account it is. Whether if it is a service account, this gets populated with a service account. Okay. I don't know whether we can create, allow you to create accounts. Yeah, we can create accounts, right? Yeah. So you see this. These are the types of accounts which are there, but the major ones which are being used are the service accounts. A normal user account will not have any value here. Okay, it will be blank. All right. A service account has to be tagged as a service account here. Okay. Emergency access ID comes into the picture of a privileged access management. Okay, I'll not at all touch that. Okay, it's a very complicated thing. But if your account is belonging to a PAM implementation, right? So for example, say you're doing PAM across your Unix servers or for example anything, right? So in that case, the emergency access ID type of an account would come into picture. So basically, what Saviynt on the whole kind of gives you is a normal user account and a service account. Okay, so when it is a service account, the behavior of the account changes. Okay, but usually if it is not, it becomes a normal user account. All right. So this is very important. Okay, whenever you are building a security system and a endpoint. Okay.
So I have one question, like for this orphan account or the service account, does it have any identification like through which I can figure it out like this particular user is or orphan account? Like I understand like the orphan account doesn't have any user tagged with that. So
Mhm.
and as you say like the and service account should have the owner, right? But from where in the Saviynt I can like distinguish them? Like is there any
Mm.
specific place where I can find them?
Yeah, yeah. Let me open an account.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's pick let's pick an account which doesn't. So this account doesn't have any username associated with that. Okay. So
Correct, correct,
this
yeah.
field remains blank. All right.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's your first factor. That's your first factor in writing your query, wherein you will check whether that particular account has got a user associated with or not. Okay. First point. Second point, there will be an orphan tag here, okay, which can be populated with true or false. Okay, usually, yeah. So usually, I don't know. I mean, this is a confusion point again for me, right? Say, it has as this account doesn't have any user. This usually should be populated with true, but it's false
Correct.
here.
Mhm,
Let's pick an account which has got a user tag to it and see how it behaves, right?
mhm,
Or how it
mhm,
is, say, test user 4. It has got
mhm,
tagged with a, so again, orphan is false again here, okay?
mhm,
So, but this is the attribute apart from the user to account association. This is the another attribute which you can populate it clearly, okay? Whenever you're doing an import process, right? You can
mhm.
always say that if that account is an orphan account or not through your import process, or you can have a analytics to populate the, not analytics, but you can have a custom query to populate this particular value again, okay? But ideally this value has to be brought in from your import process, whatever the application through which you are importing, okay?
Mhm.
So one factor you need to check whether the user is tagged with that account. If not, the second thing is you can use this orphan attribute by populating it with correct value. You can use these two fields in your query to find out whether it is an orphan account or not. Point number one. Point number two, how do I identify a service account? Correct. So as I said, all your service accounts, when they get created, they need to have an account type called as a service account. Okay. So that's how you differentiate a normal user account versus a service.
Mhm.
And service accounts will definitely not have a user associated with them, but they will,
Correct.
I'm sorry, but they will have a owner tag to them. Again, get having an owner is not a mandatory thing, but
Mhm.
99% of the implementations which I have done so far, right? So they have owners associated with them because somebody needs to monitor that service account. Okay, so if I need access to that service account, or if I need to be included in that service account, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, if I need to be included in that service account or part of that service account, my owner need to approve it basically. So they will have owners, okay, but they should not have any user associated with them, and their account type must and should be service account. All right,
Got it. Yep.
cool, cool stuff. So on the high level, a user is associated with an account through a username rule. Okay, sorry, user correlation rule. All right, an account will have, may or may not have entitlements. I'll not say will, may or may not have entitlements. Okay, again, this is permitted to the data which you are reconciling. I can just have accounts and may not have entitlements part of them. Okay, I may have account with entitlements and have child entitlements or privileges. Okay, it all depends upon your target application and what level of account entitlement hierarchy it maintains. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So this is one level of data model which I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, now let's
Okay.
get into the other data model which is present within Saviynt. Okay, and this the second part is important, right? Cool stuff. Okay, yeah. So this is one kind of a, not one kind of a data model. I would not say that, but this is, say, a, an association or a hierarchy which is set up within Saviynt after your data has been imported. Okay, or once you have your users, or you have done your account import and you have done your access import and all that stuff, right? So why I would talked about this thing is that you should always remember how a user is linked or mapped to an account, and how accounts are mapped to entitlements. Okay, I'll add another point here just for your benefit. Okay, user to users, it's an independent table. Okay, okay. Accounts will have, it's again same, it's, I would say, an independent table again. Okay, I'm just telling you where they are stored in the database, right? So user to account, okay, this table stores user plus account keys. It's only a table which stores references, okay. Entitlements is an independent table, okay. Account to entitlement, again table stores account plus entitlement keys. All right, so that's how data is stored within the database. All right, so these tables, user account, user underscore account, it's actually called as user underscore account. I just wrote a short form here. So user underscore accounts will store your user reference key and account reference key. Okay, account to entitlement, okay, which is called as account underscore entitlements one. The table is called as account underscore entitlement one. Okay, that again stores the references, the primary keys from accounts table and entitlements table. Okay, that's how data is stored. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Now coming to the other part of the actual data model, right? Wherein how the data content is stored within the product, or how the hierarchy is set up between the major elements, right? First and
Mhm.
foremost, for any application, you need something called a security system. Okay. How do we do that? Okay. For any of your implementation, you will first and
Sri,
foremost need.
Sri, one quick question. Like before you jump into the security system, the account underscore ent1, that table inside the box what you have written, right? So it's written like this table stores account plus entitlement keys. So entitlement key means basically that the entitlement name, right?
Not the name, it shows the primary key of the entitlement.
Okay. Primary key means like usually that happens in the table, right? Once we just connect between two tables. So like, is it any specific number, or like how it like looks basically, like how I can
They're numbers only.
identify?
They're numbers only. So it will be a key, it will be a number
Uh-huh.
from accounts table, and it will be a number from entitlements table. That's all.
Okay. So but how I can get that, like that key
So you
number,
need not
like?
to, you, you need not to be bothered about it, right? Meaning, see, again, right? Account entitlements one table will again have a primary key. It will have three columns. Okay, one,
Okay, okay.
this table's primary key. Okay, account
Mhm.
key and entitlement key, something like this.
Okay, got it. So this is the field of this particular table. That's what you said. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay. Mhm.
Cool. So on the other side, we have something called as a security system. Okay, which is important for you to build your, which is part of your data model, and which you need to create it whenever you're onboarding an application. Okay. Under
Mhm.
and under security system, you have something called as an endpoint.
Mhm.
Okay. Under endpoint, you will have something called as accounts. Okay.
Mhm.
Under accounts, you will have something called as entitlements. Entitlements will further have child entitlements, may or may not have, right? So they can or they cannot have child entitlements, and they can or cannot have privileges. Okay. So how the hierarchy is set up, or how the hierarchy, or how the parent, not parent child, but it's like a inheritance thing, right? So the topmost part of your food chain is security system, okay, which you should definitely create at any point of time. Okay, you cannot have an endpoint without a security system. Okay, you can have a security system without endpoint, but that doesn't make any sense, because your accounts need to go and sit within an endpoint. Okay, so always remember, your security system is the topmost level in the food chain. Okay, under security system you have something called as an endpoint. Okay, that endpoint is nothing but an application. It's a target application. Okay, so security system is like the topmost umbrella. So I can have one or more than one endpoint in a security system. Okay, say for example, it's a logical application. It's a logical AD application, right? So Saviynt calls it as logical AD application. So you can have one, and this example only applies for Azure and Active Directory, right? Wherein you can have one security system and you can have multiple endpoints within it. But usually, if I pick up a normal standalone application or a general application like Salesforce, I'll have one security system and I'll have one endpoint for my Salesforce. That's all. Okay. So, and within that endpoint, I will have my accounts mapped to that particular endpoint. Okay. Under accounts, I will have something called as entitlements. Okay. So let me write this. Okay. Your endpoint will have something called as entitlement types. Okay. As well as accounts. Okay. If I come down a step further, okay, this account will have entitlements belonging to one or more entitlement types. All right. So I'll repeat it again. My top part of the food chain is security system. It will have something called as an endpoint under it. Your endpoint will have accounts and entitlement types inside it. Okay. Your account will have entitlements belonging to one of the entitlement types. Okay. Your entitlements may have child entitlements further or may have privileges as well. Okay. Or your entitlement may not have both of them. Okay. But these four things or five things are very important. You need to have a security system. You need to have an endpoint. Okay. You need to have an account, and that account will have entitlements belonging to these entitlement types. Got it?
Yep.
Cool.
And one more thing, Sri, like, so this is the common thing that I understand. And in some cases, they use that the user group too, right? So, but is there any way like in some of these elements will be depends on that, like especially account?
Sorry, say that again.
I'm saying like in the endpoint there is another thing is there is the user group. So like basically like it's used for the various purpose, like especially like different level of provisioning, different level of owner settings and all. So like especially like usually like always we use the user accounts, right? What basically just added with the endpoint. So and based on your hierarchy, what you have shown. So like, is there any dependence are also there on the user group, like what can be considered inside the hierarchy, or it's a
No,
like
no.
external part?
No. So user groups will come into picture either when you're doing a provisioning part or in the part of a workflow, okay, or whether you want to send somebody, whether you want to send that particular, as I said, right, workflow basically wherein you want to send a request to a user group, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a primary usage of having a user group, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But usually user groups do not take part in the data setup or the hierarchy, okay. They are individual
Got it,
elements.
got it.
Yeah,
So
they are
this
individual
is
elements
basically
wherein
our
you just map certain users inside a user group. That's all.
mhm. Got it. So this is basically our data model, what has to be followed, and like that's
Exactly.
the way like the data got set up into the Saviynt system.
Correct. So if yeah, so 200% your entire data will sit or has to sit in this model. Okay. There's no deviation anywhere that I'll follow some other pattern or something. No. Okay. Your your complete data when you onboard an application should have the structure with it. Okay. So if I show you a quick example, uh, Connections, obviously, right? Connections are part and parcel of this particular entire implementation. But when after connection, what is the setup? So, say for example, I have a connection called a security system called as DO. Okay, my security system will not have any references to it apart from a connection. Okay, say for example, if it's a disconnected application, I'll not even have a connection. So I'll not talk about connection to a security system association. Okay, that's evident. Okay, and that's understandable. Inside my security system, I will have an endpoint, which is a one level down. Okay, I click on my endpoint. All right. See, my endpoint will have a reference to the security system, which is parent and child sort of thing. Correct. Under my endpoint, as I told, two major things: one, an entitlement type, and another, accounts. Okay. So if you open your entitlement type table, or if you open your accounts table, these will have references to your endpoint. Let me quickly show you that. So this is my accounts table. My accounts table will have a reference to my endpoint. Where is it gone? JKLN. Right? So as I told you, your accounts will have reference to an endpoint, but your endpoint will not have reference to your accounts. Okay, it's not in that fashion. All right. And again, the other important thing which you need to remember is, again, you will have something called as an entitlement type sitting inside your which will be mapped to your endpoint. Okay. Under each entitlement type, you will have your entitlement values. Okay, and these are the same entitlement values which will have an account mapped to them. So I'm at an entitlement value level, and if I click on accounts, I will have accounts mapped to entitlement values. Okay, on the whole, one, security system is your topmost part of the apex or the pyramid. Your security system will have endpoint, which will have a reference to it. Your endpoint will have entitlement type and accounts. Okay, sorry, entitlement type and accounts. Both of these elements will have a reference to your endpoint. Okay, under your account, you will have something called as entitlements associated with that. Okay, let me pick another good example. Yeah. So as I said, your account will have a reference to your endpoint because account comes beneath endpoint. Okay, and your account will have entitlements associated with that. Okay, and these entitlements again, they belong to your entitlement type, and that entitlement type again belongs to your endpoint. All right. So I talked about a certain point called as privileges, right? Or even child entitlements. Okay. If this entitlement called as test group one will have a child entitlement, there will be another tree structure here. Okay, going to the child entitlement. All right. As there is no child entitlement, it's black. All right, or there's no tree structure further to it. All right. And I talked about another point called as a privilege. Okay, privilege is nothing but an added information or an added access on top of your existing access. So test group one is my existing access. Okay, so I can have a privilege saying that it's a read, write, or an admin access. Okay, so if you have a privilege which comes through your data import again from your target, okay, that would be showing up here. Okay, it's showing as no record found here. So if I click on test group one, okay, if you have a privilege, that will be coming up here. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So precisely to keep it short, you have a security system, you have an endpoint, you have an account. The endpoint will have accounts and entitlement types. Your entitlement types will have entitlements. These are the same entitlements which will be mapped to your account as well. Okay. Your entitlements may or may not have child entitlements or privileges. Okay, that's a tree structure or the data model which Saviynt follows. All right.
So
On top
can
of
you just go to type ones that endpoints you are showing?
your
Yeah. And can you just click the next the round button of the group of the application?
mhm,
Yep. Yeah.
mhm,
Click on that. Yeah. So if we just come down, I have seen like some people write. If you just come down a little bit, yeah, some ARS query. Sometimes like people write. So what is what is that basically? Like is a config for requestable entitlements in ARS. So
that's
and
right.
the
See,
configs. So I
so
just need to know
these
how
things,
it.
yeah, so these things come into picture when you want to show certain entitlements and hide certain entitlements from ARS. Okay, say I have say 500 entitlements under my entitlement type, and I want to
Mhm,
expose only 10 entitlements out of 500. Okay,
mhm,
so then I will say that ev dot custom property one. Okay,
mhm,
equals say requestable. All right. So this is a query, okay, which will get executed whenever users come and request for this entitlement type. Okay, the entitlement belonging to this entitlement type. So in that way, I'm not showing all my 500. I'm just showing 10 out of 500. That's all.
mhm.
Okay, that's the same goes for your service account request as well. Where is it?
So and why like it is write something like the EV dot like what is the EV dot?
That's a syntax which you need to follow. So you have a watermark here, right? So that's a syntax you need
So
to.
syntax, yeah. I just want to like always know like why it is like they use it here always EV dot something. Yeah,
They
like EV dot
identify
data figure.
they identify the entitlements value table with a alias called as EV. That's all.
Oh, okay. So and
Okay?
if I need to segregate that like what you're saying like I want to show only some specific numbers. So like where I should give that like uh,
See, you say, for example, you want to use your custom property of an entitlement wherein your custom
uh,
property says requestable. Okay? Okay?
yeah.
I'm just typing a very, very stupid
Yeah, yeah,
string here.
yeah. But
Okay?
that's okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh, when you go back to your list of entitlements, okay?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay. And I will, where is it advanced? Yeah. So you're saying
Uh-huh.
DO
Uh-huh.
group.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I have 500 here, for example.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I want to show only all users out of the entire 500 list. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'll populate my custom property one. Where is my custom property one? Other attribute. Yeah, this is my custom property one. Okay,
Uh-huh.
say
Uh-huh.
requestable. That's all. Okay,
Oh, okay.
I'll say my
Okay.
I'll say my custom property one is requestable, and I'll use this value in your configuration tab.
Means inside the entitlement type. So whichever will be the requestable, it will only show them.
Correct, correct. So you need to populate
Mhm.
your data, meaning entitlement values, custom property, or any property you want to use, and
Mhm.
then kind of use that query in your entitlement type configuration.
Configuration. Okay. Okay. Okay.